This will be for the Kuta software worksheet, right triangle congruence. Now, before you do this worksheet, I highly suggest you watch my video titled Congruence in Right Triangles Other than Hypotenuse Leg. So if you look up the answers for this Kuta software worksheet, they use the right triangle congruence terminology in their answers. But what I explained in my video is that these three theorems are actually similar to the ones we already learned. So I did use or keep hypotenuse leg, but I replaced these three theorems, and I'll show you that in a moment. Or I should say, I showed you that in the video, the replacement for these three theorems. But I'm going to keep the hypotenuse leg, and what I'm going to do for the potential answers here is use the ones we've already learned. Okay, so none of these are side, 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 so we can cross that one off. But we're going to be using side, angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, hypotenuse leg. And if none of these work, if you can't prove it, then you can just write not congruent. So these are the 5 possible answers for this worksheet. All right, let's look at number 1. We see on the, I guess you could say the base of this triangle, that we basically have a straight line right here. We know that a straight angle is 180 degrees. So if this angle is 90, the angle next to it is also going to be 90. Okay, so whenever you see a straight angle and one of the angles is 90, the other one's going to be 90 as well. All right, we see this side right here is shared by both triangles. Okay, so we can mark that congruent. They already used 1 tick mark, so I am going to use 2 tick marks right there. All right, and now as you can see, we have side, angle, side, side, angle, side. The angles that are congruent are in between the 2 sides that are congruent. See, this here is in between the 2 sides that are congruent. So side, angle, side. The A is in between the 2 S's, just like the angle is in between the 2 sides. Okay, and of course these angles are congruent because they're both right angles. They're both 90 degrees. All right, let's look at number 2. Now you see, we have 2 sides and an angle, okay? And there is no postulate or theorem for side, side, angle, okay? Or angle, side, side. There's no postulate or theorem for that. So what you want to do, and really you should do this for most of the problems, if the side is marked across from the right angle, okay, the side across from the right angle is always your hypotenuse. All right, so I would label that on most of these diagrams. Across from your right angle, go from the angle to the side. That's your hypotenuse. Now, in a right triangle, the sides, either side that are not the hypotenuse, those are called legs. So this side right here is a leg. And this side right here is also a leg. Okay, so is this one and so is this one, but they're not marked. So I'm going to leave those alone. All right, and as you can see, we have hypotenuse matches hypotenuse, and we have a leg that matches a leg. They are congruent. So the triangles are congruent by HL, hypotenuse, leg. Okay, see that? The hypotenuses and the legs both match. All right, number 4. Remember when you have the straight lines or line segments, either one, and you have that X shape, like so, you can mark the angles across from each other congruent. So if this is a right angle, this angle here is also going to be a right angle. Okay, so I'm going to mark this as a right angle. All right, and you can label the side across from the right angle as a hypotenuse, but I can already see we have two angles and a side. Now the side is not in between the two angles, so it's going to be angle, angle, side. See this? Angle, angle, side. The order that you travel around the triangle doesn't matter, okay? You can go clockwise if you have to, or you can go counterclockwise if you need to. Either one works. But when you have two angles and a side, it's either going to be angle, angle, side, or it's going to be angle, side, angle. Okay, for angle, side, angle, the side has to be in between the two angles. But we don't have the side in between the two angles. We have a side that's not in between. So it's not ASA, it's angle, angle, side. You can see that on the other triangle. Angle, angle, side. The side is not in between the two angles. All right, let's look at number 9. And we can see on number 9, we have the X shape right here. And we have the other line segment right there. Okay, so this angle matches that angle. So I'm going to mark those two. All right, they already used the two curves, so I'm just going to use one right here and right there. All right, now I'll erase this. And now what do we have here? We have angle, angle, angle. We have an angle, an angle, and an angle. Okay, do we have a theorem or postulate that has angle, angle, angle? No, we do not. Okay, and none of the sides are marked congruent, and none of the sides are shared. Okay, so if you don't have any sides, you can't prove it, because all the theorems have a side involved. So this one is just going to be not congruent. All right, because there's no sides marked at all, and there's no shared side. All right, for 11 through 18, they want us to state what additional information is required in order to know that the triangles are congruent for the reason given. All right, so in this section, like I said, I modified some of them because I don't use the terminology that they use. Okay, so I kept the hypotenuse leg, but the other ones I modified to represent the ones we already learned, like AAS or SAS. So the additional information, what they're basically asking for, either you're going to have sides congruent, you're going to have to tell which sides are congruent, or you're going to have to tell them which angles are congruent. Okay, so it's going to be one of these two answers. And some of them might have two answers, but it's going to be two sets of sides or two sets of angles. All right, number 11, they want us to use hypotenuse leg. So we have to find the missing info. So look across from the right angle, those sides are marked. So we might as well mark that side as a hypotenuse. All right, so across from your right angle is your hypotenuse. And now, since we have the hypotenuses, we want a leg, or should I say a pair of legs. So if you look at the diagram, this leg, anything that's not a hypotenuse is a leg. So this here is a leg. And this right here is also a leg. All right, so that is the missing information. We already have the hypotenuses. So if we mark the leg congruent to the leg, that would be DF congruent to this right here, XV. Remember, the order of the letters don't matter when naming a side or a line segment. Now, that's one potential answer. Now, let's say for the sake of the argument, I'll do it in a different color. This is also a leg right here because it's not a hypotenuse. It's in a right triangle, but it's not a hypotenuse. That's a leg, and this right here is a leg as well. So if this leg matched this leg right here, we would again have hypotenuse leg, and that's what we wanted. So this is a potential answer, or we could also say this leg, which is DE, is congruent to this leg here, which is WV. All right, so there's actually two answers for number 11. All right, number 13, we see this side right here is shared by both triangles. So I'm going to mark that side congruent to itself. And we see there's a right angle here and a straight line here. So I'm going to mark this as a right angle. All right. So I didn't even need to see what they're asking for at first. That's automatic. To mark the side and the right angle, that's automatic. All right. And they want us to use side, angle, side. The angle has to be in between the two sides that are congruent. So this angle here would have to be in between this and this side right here. This angle right here would have to be in between this and this side right here. So the missing information is this side right here, which is HM. And that's going to be congruent to this side right here, which is ML. All right, now we can't use this side because if we had this side and this side, the angle would not be in between these two sides. So that's the only answer for number 13. All right, number 15, we see the X shape right here and right here. All right, so if this one is a right angle, this one is also going to be a right angle. So I want to mark that as a right angle. And now let's see. They want us to use angle, angle, side. So notice the side is not in between the two angles. So that's the only thing. Okay. We already have one side marked, and we already have one angle marked. So since we want two angles, we're going to look for the other angles that would have to be congruent in order to fulfill AAS. All right, so let's see. If I did this angle, it would be angle, side, angle, and the side would be in between. So I can't use this one. All right, so I'm going to take this angle right here. That's angle J, so I'm going to start with angle J. And that's going to be congruent to, let's look at the other triangle. Okay, if I use this angle here, it would be angle, side, angle, and the side would be in between. So I cannot use that angle because I want AAS. So it's going to have to be this angle right here, angle, angle, side. See, the side is not in between. So this here is angle B. All right, so that's it. Angle J would have to be congruent to angle B in order to use AAS. All right, so 17 is sort of similar to number 11 since we're using hypotenuse leg, but I think there's only one answer for number 17.